I have seen the torch of freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dreams some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, we have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all. So
With deep appreciation for the blessings of freedom that we know in this great land of ours, welcome to another edition of Character Matters. I'm Dr. George Simon. This is where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that is affecting much of the free world, much of the world actually, and is responsible for so many of the problems that we have and what we can do about it, because we definitely need to turn the tide and restore the greatness that was once America, and restore the greatness in our modern civilization by becoming people of good character once again, fulfilling our ambitions with a sense of purpose and a sense of community and a sense of awareness about our impact on each other and on our planet, and with the kind of conscientiousness that will lead us into the next centuries with a deeper sense of, will help us to survive some of the crises that we face. So this is where we talk about these things, and where we talk about what really matters. Character matters. And if you want to be part of the conversation, give us a call at 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. Be happy to take your call. Last week, as you may recall, I was on vacation, much needed break. Took some time to go to the Gulf Coast, soak up some sunshine, take in the beach a little bit, get some R&R, and it was a wonderful time. I did get refreshed, but also was not able to take live calls last week. So you were treated to a rebroadcast of an earlier program. But this week we are back live and ready to take your calls at 718-717-8296. So give us a call if you have a mind. We have a lot on our agenda today, but we always have time for callers, especially those who want to share their experiences or to ask questions. Sometimes people have questions about the things that I've written in any of my books, or on my blog, or on some of the other blogs that I've written for, and I'm happy to take those questions. For those of you who are new to the program, welcome. And also for those of you who have been here since the beginning and have been such strong supporters, thank you so much. I want to say a special thank you to those who took the time and made the effort to contact me personally following the program that I did week before last while I was out of town, but still did a live remote broadcast. I was visiting family. I had to go back to Michigan from where I am now in Arkansas to attend a family wedding. And in so doing, had an opportunity to visit with one of my brothers who happens to be a criminal defense attorney, and had him guest on the program. Got a lot of positive email from folks who listened to that program and who had some nice things to say. And so I really appreciate those of you who took the time and made the effort to send a nice little note along. I appreciate that very much. I also want to say a special thanks to those of you, and you know who you are, who are single-handedly responsible for the tremendous success that I have enjoyed as a retired author. I've been mostly retired now for 6 years, loving every minute of it. Of course, I'm doing some things now, like this broadcast, that I never thought that I would be doing years ago in my retirement. But one of the things that's made that possible is that many years ago, when I was inspired to write my first book, I'd never written before, never considered myself an author, actually. As a matter of fact, most of my teachers in school would have told you I was the least likely to be an author. Seems like my teachers didn't really like many of my papers, but at least they taught me how to write. In any case, many years ago, I was inspired to write my first book for a lot of reasons which I've discussed in the program in the past. And this week, as a matter of fact, the day after tomorrow, will mark the 19th year, the beginning of the 19th year in print for In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People. And the reason I say I owe a supreme debt of gratitude to you readers out there is because despite the fact that I had a fair amount of publicity when the book first launched, the real reason for its success and the real reason for its longevity on the bestseller list for all these many years, and the real reason why it's been translated in so many other languages, more every year, is because of you and because of your support. It is word of mouth primarily. Word of mouth, one person telling another that they have found a book that finally makes it clear what they've been going through in their lives, living with someone who makes them feel crazy. They know something's wrong with them, but in the end, that person makes them feel there's something wrong with them. And not being able to trust their gut. In their gut, they know there's something wrong, but they can't pinpoint anything objectively. They don't know what it is that churns in their gut and tells them that there's something off. They don't know why they find themselves giving in when they want to stand ground, saying yes when they want to say no, buying into all kinds of excuses that don't really make any sense. They end up feeling pretty crazy, and they just don't understand it all. And they found in this one manual a way to understand and deal with these manipulative people that I call covertly aggressive people. Those folks who can look so charming and so good on the outside, but who inwardly are like ravenous wolves. The folks who know how to turn on the charm. They know all the right things to say. They also know how to play on your feelings. They know how to tug at your conscientiousness, to play on your sympathy, to get you to say yes when you really want to say no, to get you to back down when you really want to stand ground, to basically have their way with you. And basically, it's like getting whiplash. You don't really know what's happened to you until long after the damage has been done. So this is a book that not only explains it all, how these folks operate, how they manage to do what they do, and how to recognize and spot their tactics early on and not be swayed by them, how to deal more effectively and empower yourself in relationships with them. The book not only explains that, but it gives you a primer, an introduction into understanding all the various personality types, including those types that I call character disturbed. These are the folks who cause everybody else grief. They feel fine about themselves, but they make everybody else miserable. So I have talked about them in both my books, both in Sheep's Clothing and in my follow-up book, which is a much broader explanation, a much broader exploration of the phenomenon of character disturbance, and that is the title of the book, Character Disturbance, the Phenomenon of Our Age. I similarly have a book out, especially directed toward the Christian faith community, called The Judas Syndrome. And all these books enjoy their popularity for one main reason, and that is folks find in them something that helps make the world make sense to them and helps empower them. And then they tell somebody else. It's the best advertising in the world. Not only do they tell people, but bless my readership, I am so grateful. They also take the initiative to get on Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com or whatever place that they have ordered books from, or even at their bookstore, and write a review. And I am so fortunate to have only a few less than stellar reviews, and all of those, by the way, are plants. We know they're plants by individuals who are basically trying to promote other people's books. So I am so grateful. I am just so grateful that after all these years, the popularity of these books only continues to grow, and only through grassroots support from folks writing great reviews and from telling their friends and acquaintances about these books, In Sheep's Clothing, Character Disturbance, and The Judas Syndrome. And you can find out more about these things, about how I came to write them, by visiting my website, at drgeorgesimon.com. That's drgeorgesimon.com, or manipulativepeople.com. That's www.manipulative-people.com. There you'll find a treasure trove of articles and commentary that will truly help you empower your life. And if you're one of those folks who has finally had enough of the troubles that you've brought into your life with your less than stellar character, and you really want to build character, you can pay a visit to this blog as well, and find there the resources you need to get on the right path. So this blog is not just a resource for those seeking help in dealing with character-impaired people. It's also a resource for those with character issues who want to overcome them. So take some time to do a web search and mosey on over to www.manipulative-people.com. And as I said before, you'll find a treasure trove of information both in the articles posted and in the commentary from blog readers. And if you want to join the conversation, once again, the number is 718-717-8296, 718-717-8296. There's a great series that's just beginning on the blog. The first article posted on Friday, this past Friday. It's a small series on borderline personality disorder. a much misunderstood disorder, and I've done my best in the current series to explain this syndrome in terms that almost anyone can understand. Unfortunately, the disorder is not just misunderstood by the general public, but it's also misunderstood many times even by helping professionals. So I've written the series in a way that is easily digestible, and I know that the commentators have already gotten busy chiming in with some very helpful hints and advice and sharing stories. So you'll find lots of helpful resources on the blog, and it sure would be great if you'd pay us a visit. And you'll also find information there about all three of my books. You'll also find information there about consultations that I do. Just click on the Consultations tab on the home page, and it will direct you to a page that explains how I do consultations, both with therapists who are providing therapy services to individuals who are either dealing with a character-impaired person or who have character issues of their own and who are not getting the help they need with traditional forms of therapy. You know, traditional therapy, I've mentioned this many times, was never meant to help with these character problems that we see so prevalent today. A whole new approach is really necessary, and so not only do I explain in my books and in my online articles about how this different approach has to work, but I also sometimes engage in consultations to help folks along with that process. So you can find all that information on my blog. It's been a while since I've been behind the mic. It's been 2 weeks now since we've been live, and there's been a lot happen. And we're also facing a situation in the world where we're facing an ideology that is growing and is preying, P-R-E-Y-I-N-G, is preying upon the sentiments of the disenfranchised, or those who feel disenfranchised. There is an ideology that is growing, gaining converts every day, and basically telling the disenfranchised, it's not your fault. It's the evil system. It's the evil establishment. The reason you're down and out is because they oppress you. The system oppresses you. It's unjust and it's unfair. And to be frank, there's a certain amount of truth to that, because we do live in times of character crisis. We do live in a time where there is simply too much bad character infecting, and I'm using that word carefully, infecting every single facet of our lives, especially where the power and the economic clout is. We have no leadership to combat it as well. That's a true tragedy. We have no leadership to combat it, mostly because the political leadership in our country is beholden to the powers that be, to those that pay the tab, many of whom are as corrupt as the politicians they support. And as a result, our country's greatness has eroded, and there are more and more people feeling disenfranchised. And it is ripe for the pickings for these evil entities, and they are evil. No question about the fact that they are evil, because they hide. This one particular ideology hides behind the cloak of faithful adherence to God's will. Faithful adherence to a religious fervor and fundamentalism hides behind that. There's no truth to it. None of these demagogues, none of these power brokers, none of these would-be world dictators really mean to serve the Lord of life. Don't buy it. They mean to serve themselves. This is the human condition. This is the great issue that I addressed for the very first time in my books when I said that it is so innately human for us to fight, and particularly mostly for the male of the species, not universally so, because women can be in this vein as well, but to fight for positions of dominance among our fellow men. It's in us. It's part of our evolutionary heritage. And we haven't honestly faced it. We have not honestly faced it and come to terms with it. And when people don't honestly face it and come to terms with it, and freely choose to discipline it in the service of the greater good, there's always trouble. And the world has big trouble now because we have some folks out there who are so hell-bent on dominance. And I use that term very purposely, because these folks would rather be dead and burning in hell than not to dominate. That is their sole purpose. They simply want to rule the world. We've been here before. We've seen this play before. Hitler and his armies almost did it. They almost did it. World domination was almost theirs. It is surprising how close they came. And the lives that it cost to end that nightmare. You know, we're losing these folks, the folks who remember what it took. We're losing these folks. And we have a whole generation of folks that don't remember, that don't know, that don't have the first-hand experience of knowing what price was paid to secure the freedoms that we enjoy. Why am I spending so much time on this? Well, I'll tell you. It's like you hear every time you tune in this program and you listen to that song at the beginning. This freedom of ours comes at a very steep price, and it's up to each one of us, every single one of us, to keep this country strong and to keep it great. And this country's greatness has never, ever, ever resided primarily in its military might or its economic power. Before World War II, after the Great Depression had taken its toll, we were damn near bankrupt. It's never been our economic clout or our military might that made us great. It's the character of our people when it's been there, when that character has been there. That's what's made us great. People talk about our freedoms making us great. No. The freedoms alone don't make us great. But people of character allow freedom to thrive, because when people are of good character, we don't have to worry about there being freedom, And we can let freedom reign unbridledly. There's no pressure to restrain freedom when people are of good character. And that's what has made America really great. Its greatness has eroded because its character has eroded, and its collective character has eroded because individual character has eroded. Make no mistake, we will be called to display that character again, because this evil ideology that wants to dominate the world is going to keep growing. We are going to have to face it. We are going to have to call it by name. I cannot believe that we've been through 2 presidents of the United States who for 16 years almost total between the 2 of them have refused to call this enemy by its proper name. George Bush ambiguously called it a war on terror, but he didn't define the enemy. And now Barack Obama is just barely finding the guts to call out one group, the Islamic State. But it's the ideology that has to be attacked. It is those folks who truly believe that if they cannot have their will prevail over everyone, then there will be a dear price paid by everyone in the way of untold butchery and savagery. They're willing to do anything to dominate, and they're willing to use any cloak, especially the cloak of religion, to cover their evil hearts. Folks, we have always had psychopathy, we call it now. We got a fancy label for it, don't we? Sometimes we call it sociopathy. We've always had this with us. It's part of human nature. We are not naturally civilized. Civilization is a very, very recent event in human history. This will to dominate has been with us since we first evolved from lower creatures. And it will destroy us if it's not faced directly and called out for what it is. And in my writings and on my blog, I will have a series coming up shortly to explain all those cultural factors, all those socio-cultural factors that are fueling this increase in this kind of pathology. So stay tuned, because after the series is posted on my blogs and website, it will soon come to the program here. But we are facing an ideology that we must stand up to, but first we must call it out. We must define it. And we don't have to declare war on it, because the war has already been declared on us. Folks with this ideology declared war on America before 9/11. We knew it was coming. We knew something was coming. We knew they were going to try again. They had tried once before to make a statement, to bring us down. And we're coming up on an anniversary, folks. A 13-year anniversary. Next Thursday, September 11th, 2014. I hope you will remember. And I pray you will do 2 things. I pray that you will do your homework. Open your ears and open your eyes make it clear to yourselves just exactly who this enemy is. It's not just from without. The enemy is from without, certainly. In these ideological groups that are out to dominate, in the name, under the cloak of religious fundamentalism, but who are solely out for world domination, just like every despot before them. Just like every power-hungry, dominant-seeking, heartless, cold, empathyless psychopath before them. They just want to rule. They'd rather be dead than not be able to rule. It's that simple. Most of us find that unfathomable. We can't imagine a creature walking this earth that is so miserable with the thought of not dominating that they'd rather be dead than not dominate. For most of us, that's unfathomable. But I got to tell you, folks, this is a growing phenomenon. We have more, because of various socio-cultural factors, we have more psychopaths among us. And many are hiding behind the cloak of religious adherence. And they declared war on this country and on the freedoms that most of the free world enjoys. They declared war on those freedoms and on us years before 9/11. So as 9/11 approaches, please remember what this is all about. Please remember what it's all about. That's what inspired the song that I wrote that you hear at the beginning of this program. So I pray that you will do that you will recognize what we are contending with, that you personally reckon with it. And then the second thing I pray for is that you will be inspired yourself. And I hope that the song can help do that. That's why I wrote it. Check it out on YouTube. Look at and listen to one of the videos. Anthem for the Millennium. America, My Home. The full title is Anthem for the Millennium. Why? Because when I wrote the song, 9/11 hadn't happened. And I wrote it basically as a new anthem, a new patriotic anthem for the turn of the millennium. It was written in 1998, copyrighted in 1999. I wrote it as a new anthem for the new millennium, but it didn't become popular until just before and then just after 9/11. Because there was an inspirational message there about freedom and our personal duty to preserve it. And it is more commonly known by its subtitle, America, My Home. So go to YouTube, listen to one of the videos, watch one of the videos, be one of the ones to visit our Facebook page, or more importantly, be one of the ones who wants to carry the message. Every year about this time, around September 11th time and around Veterans Day time will be coming up in November, I start to get requests from all over the country for people who want to do performances or who want to lead school choirs or college choirs or orchestras in performances. And it's always so edifying. And I start to get emails from folks. You'll find out how to contact me and how to get a hold of the music when you visit on YouTube. So I urge you to do that. Get inspired. Freedom really matters. Character really matters. Character matters more than anything else. That's what will really help us restore our greatness, will get us back to our senses, and will help us to face this formidable enemy that we face. You have no idea what lengths people will go through who would rather be dead than not dominate. You can't imagine such a mindset. Or perhaps you can. Perhaps one of you out there listening is a psychopath and knows exactly what I'm talking about. But there are some personalities for whom their only joy in being alive is to think of themselves in a superior position to others, in a position to rule others, in a position to sadistically abuse others. Make no mistake, these people who are doing beheadings and crucifixions and whatnot, these people enjoy what they do. They live for this. And they don't mind sacrificing their own lives. And it's not for what they say. It's not because they really think that they're going to be rewarded with 100 Some of the faithful followers believe that they might get rewarded with 100 virgins or whatever the case may be, or that they're really doing the work of God, or really purifying the land from the infidels. But most of these folks, especially the leaders, they just want to dominate. It's in their blood. They've wanted to do so since they were knee-high. They're hell-bent on doing it at any cost, and they'd rather be dead than not be in charge. It's just that simple. And they really enjoy the butchery. So you have no idea what kind of enemy we face here. And if we don't get a president soon, or a leader of some kind soon, who is willing to call this out for what it is, label the enemy for who the enemy is, both within and without, these heartless, soulless characters who are destroying us from without and from within. If we don't call this out, and if we don't take a hard look at the socio-cultural factors that are feeding, nurturing, encouraging, even rewarding a growth of this kind of pathology, we will certainly be doomed. So I'm asking you, as I do every year at this time, it's coming close to the anniversary date. If remembering what happened then isn't going to spur you into some kind of mindset, I don't know what is. But as we approach the anniversary of September 11th, go to YouTube or Google Anthem for the Millennium, America, My Home, either one of those. Listen, be inspired. Go to my website, go to my blog, www.drgeorgesimon.com or www.manipulative-people.com. Be one of the ones to carry the message. Be one of the ones to inspire others. We can and we must do better. Our very freedoms are at stake. Our whole way of life is at stake. We literally cannot go on as we are doing. We're so deeply in debt, it's unbelievable. $17.5 trillion and counting. Talk about madness. And there's blame to go around everywhere. I am not going to take political sides here. There's plenty of blame to go around. Neither side is right. Neither side. Both sides have some valid points, but neither side is right. We're not going to solve our problems by playing Robin Hood, by robbing the ultra rich and giving to the poor. We're not going to solve our problems that way. Besides, even if you could confiscated all the wealth, if you confiscated every bit of wealth from the top 5%, if you confiscated all of the wealth of the top 10%, you'd barely make a dent. Barely make a dent in our debt. It's unconscionable. It's unconscionable that anybody would have such character to kick the can down the road. Our problems are deep and they're systemic. We have far too many, upwards of 40% of the country, that don't produce, that don't function. The highest percentage of the population in all of the free world behind bars. A tragedy. And it's not just because we are incarcerating too many people who don't deserve to be incarcerated. I saw one program on NBC News the other night. It just made my hair hurt. Same old stuff, same old politically correct stuff about how somebody was doing time for, basically the way that it was put, doing time for weed. How tragic. Because of one of these ridiculous 3 strikes and you're out laws. Well, okay, you look just a tiny bit deeper into the story, just a tiny bit deeper into this very story that they were passing off as an example of how horrible it is that we have so many people behind bars who don't belong there because they're there on small little drug charges. You look just a little bit deeper into this story. The person involved is a career criminal. And yes, the crime for which he was reconvicted and brought back was a relatively nonviolent crime. By the way, it wasn't just smoking weed. He had 6 pounds of the stuff, part of a dealing, part of a dope dealing enterprise, harming lots of innocent people. And maybe that's what he was nabbed on, but his history was checkered with all kinds of other horrible things. So you look deep. Well, for some reason there, we lost contact again, but we're back, I hope. The real truth, as I was saying, is deeper than that. The real truth is we have entirely too many people in this great land of ours who don't care enough, who don't give enough, who don't produce enough. And that's why we're not great anymore. A precious few are carrying the burden for everybody. And that cannot stand. That cannot stand. This country economically can't even function without huge debt unless there is a thriving middle class. And the middle class has all but disappeared. All but disappeared. Those that can and are doing quite well at the top. Those who we need to innovate, to create new opportunities, to open up new vistas, to compete against those who have gotten far too big, and not knock them down a peg, to reinvent the wheel. those who we really need at the lower levels to bring this country up by the bootstraps, they're not there. They're not there. They don't have the foresight. They don't have the drive. They don't have the awareness. They don't have the motivation, the dedication, the community mindedness. And this must change. It must change. We must change. We must face the character enemy, not just without, not just these horrible ideologues who are pathologically psychopathic to the point that they would rather die than not dominate. But we have to face the enemy within. The selfish, greedy folks who only want to take and who don't want to give, who don't want to create the new opportunities that we so desperately need to get this country roaring back to prosperity. We just have to do better. I don't know how many of you agree. Maybe nobody does. Maybe nobody wants to chime in and say they agree. Maybe you do, and maybe you just want to be silent. Maybe you disagree. That's fine too. Give me a call, 718-717-8296. I'd be happy to debate the issue with you. That's 718-717-8296. Love to debate the issue with you. But I think that's what's at stake. So as this anniversary approaches, I really would like you to do that one thing for me and go to YouTube, check out the videos, get inspired, and do something yourself to help bring back our country to its ideals. I need to talk just a little bit about the series of articles that's on the blog presently, and will be starting soon. And also, I want to talk a little bit about one of the programs that's going to be coming up in 2 weeks, week after next. I was mentioning how there's probably no greater cover for these dominance-seeking psychopaths, these hell-bent on domination, abusive, malicious characters, probably no greater cover for them than religion. And probably nobody knows that better than the guest I'm going to have on my program week after next, Barbara Roberts, who operates a blog with a pastor, Jeff, out of Seattle, Jeff Crippen, called Cry for Justice. It addresses the problem of abuse, emotional and even physical abuse, within the fundamentalist Christian community. I would take this call. Hello, and welcome to Character Matters.
Good evening, sir. I love your show, and I give people, whomever I meet, like recently it was in the library, a young man is studying psychology. I said, do you know Dr. Simon? And cited your book. So I did not really know that, when you give personal recommendations, word by mouth, that this is the most, the best way of helping, like you or other people. So I'm glad I heard that, because I always do that. If I like something, I praise people or recommend it. So this is the first thing I wanted to tell you.
Well, I thank you very much for that.
And I have memorized your books now.
Well, thank you.
The titles. They really have to be read several times in order that it really sinks in, because there is like a lifetime of wisdom, observance, and love to the truth in it. And also, how should I say, challenging, probably current psychological matters, not absolutely going with the flow like so many health professionals have to do it in these times. So I just love your books.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, I tried to keep it free of what we call psychobabble.
Psychobabble.
Yes.
And I also listen to your music, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I just hope that many people will listen to your love song to America and to freedom of America, because this is what we want, what we need, in order to be happy people and in order to also serve our God of the Bible. And but I would like to add something, because sometimes an adversary like these great religious leaders who are attacking America, they also can make us aware of moral character deficit that happens in this country.
Yes.
See, like when I came from Germany, I always thought America is so much better, because because there is so much moral indecencies in Germany, and the more I'm here, I think it's almost alike. And I understand sometimes when men with different values, when they see women not properly dressed, when fornication. That's maybe an old-fashioned expression, but and so in a way they have it should be a wake-up call for us.
Yes,
and
yes.
Now I would like to know your comment, please. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And let me ask a question of you, if you don't mind.
It's just also to look at ourselves, like in a mirror.
Yes.
Why do they, yes, we are the little Satan and the big Satan. That's what you're talking about,
Yes,
right?
yes. And I want to address your question, but I wanted to ask you your opinion on something, too, if you don't mind.
No, sure.
If you had to pick just one thing primarily about culture, about modern culture, that you thought was a true evil that was fostering a lot of the problems, a lot of the character problems that we are having, if you had to pick one, what would you say would be the number one feature of modern culture that creates this problem that we have with our national character?
Oh, that's a tough question. But, I, as a mother of 3 daughters, would probably pick abortion first. And we have now 56, I think, million of abortions in this country. Mm-hmm. And this is just absolutely horror to me whenever I think about it.
Okay. I'm going to halfway agree with you, and why I say halfway is because I'm not going to focus on the abortion itself, but on the mindset and the matter of the heart that would lead someone there. We have come to a point, it would seem, in the last 30 or 40 years, where human life is not worth very much.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And where certain things that we used to approach with a fair amount of reverence and with caution, we had all of these social institutions designed to foster in us a sense of awareness and caution about certain things. Sex was one of those things that we were supposed to approach with great caution, because it could be one of those very beautiful things, but it could also be one of those very dangerous things. Why? Because it's one of those things intimately connected with the creation of human life.
Yeah, I fully agree.
And then what happened? Well, first we had this idea that all we had to do was take a pill, and we didn't have to worry about it anymore, and we could just do whatever we wanted sexually, and nobody would have to get hurt, and nobody would have any problem. Right?
Yeah.
And then when that didn't work completely, well, once the Supreme Court helped out and once other jurisdictions helped out, we thought, well, if that doesn't work, if we end up creating a human life and we don't want that life, we can just get rid of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree in the sense that I don't look at the abortion itself as the evil, but that sentiment that is behind it, that has such irreverence, not just for the sanctity of human life. You don't even have to get religious about it. All you have to do is get practical about it. Mm-hmm. We're all in this together. We are all in this together. Human life is not going to get sustained on this planet without all of us cooperating with one another. We're either our own best friends or our own worst enemies.
Yeah.
We're either going to thrive together or we're going down together. It's that simple. And we can't behave so indiscriminately without regard to consequence and not have disaster follow. So in that sense, I'm deeply agreeing with you, and I hope that resonates with what you want to say.
Oh, yes, and I'm glad because we always have to go to the root problem, and it's our selfish behavior.
Yes.
Totally selfish behavior. That doesn't, we do not love our neighbor. We don't even, as a German, I always look at these things from Hitler, and you talked about Hitler today. And I see it has really escalated in a way, because under Hitler, people, in a way, couldn't help it. A lot of people, they were just sucked in this evil system. They were like hypnotized. But today, women have a choice. And that choice often means death for the unborn. And I think this has escalated. And I am deeply, deeply concerned about it.
Yes.
Especially mothers, but sometimes people also get manipulated from the system, and they think, oh, yeah, it is just a glob of tissue, which it's not,
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm sorry.
Well, that's quite all right. I think that we could probably spend, and we will be, by the way, after the 2 weeks from today, when Ms. Roberts is on and talks about abuse in the Christian faith community, we're going to begin a whole series of talking about the socio-cultural factors that are contributing to our age of character disturbance. And I'm going to invite you and anyone else who wants to chime in with thoughts on that to call in. But we're going to be spending a great deal of time on that, because I consider that to be the defining challenge of our time. We really have to take a much more serious look at the kinds of things about our culture that are fueling this rampant disregard for human welfare. And I think it has, my own personal opinion is that it has an awful lot to do with the attitudes of entitlement that are promoted in our culture today, because attitudes of entitlement work directly against gratitude and a sense of obligation to do your part to make this all work well.
I love how you say that. I love how you say that. And we have to kind of foster that in our children. And sometimes life is so hectic and so crazy that it's so much easier to give to the child or to just, what they want, instead of raising them properly, that this attitude of entitlement does not even happen.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can give a last word on that.
Yes, and that's why in my book, Character Disturbance, in the 10 Commandments of Character Development, that's why I'm big on those very, very things. Well, we're getting close to the end of the program here. Thank you so much for your kind words and for your comments. I appreciate it very much. Call in again anytime.
Thank you so much. I will again listen. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And once again, folks, I encourage you, visit the YouTube channel. Google Anthem for the Millennium, America, My Home. Listen, be inspired. Let's take America back. Let's get our greatness back. Character matters. Remember that. Character matters. And I will see you once again next week, where we'll talk about why character matters so much. So keep tuned and be strong. And I'll see you again next week on Character Matters.